What's going on, guys? It's Gio, and we're back again for part 4, I think is what we're on, for the F30 N20 build series. Today, I'm just going to be getting ready for pulling the engine at some point this week. This is going to take the course of a few days. So far, all I've done really is get the engine bay kind of stripped down. I took all the covers off, pulled the airbox out, and then that's kind of where I'm at. I've labeled a few things, although most of the harness is going to say on the motor, so kind of redundant, but rather be safe than sorry. So let me go and flip the camera around and show you where we're at right now. Okay, so this is where we're at. You can see without all of those covers there's a lot more space in here. We don't have the ABS module covered or the cowl covering or the like box that sits above the engine right in the back half, so that it makes it impossible to get the cylinder for. But what we're going to be doing left is pulling the fan, disconnecting the trans-cooler from the radiator so I don't have to drain it, taking the charge piping off, taking off all of the coolant radiator hoses, draining the radiator, draining the oil, unplugging the harnesses from here, more than likely, and undoing this wire because there's no way I'm going to reach around to the back of the engine to get that. We do have to disconnect it from the transmission still. I have to lock it into neutral, of course, also disconnect the battery and all of that. But yeah, I do have the engine hoist already. I literally assembled it yesterday. So we're going to pull out as much stuff as possible that we can get to relatively easily, and just make it easier so that on the way out, I'm not fighting with clearing the tunnel or clearing up here. Up here, I don't really think it's going to be an issue. It's more the backside that I'm kind of concerned with. There isn't a ton of room for me to maneuver around in here. I'm going to have to push the car back all the way to the edge of the garage and hope the hoist will pull all the way out, if not go over the fender. We are going to pull off the hood. Right now I'm just using it to hold my light so that I can see a bit better, but that will come off. I have it marked with tape as well, just so I can get it relatively close in position when I put it back on. But yeah, so couple of tips for people that are trying to do this. You will need a E46 tow hook, because that is what threads into the hole up here where they allow you to put a hook point. The other point for the hook, I was asking Harry about, because I didn't think it would be the most logical thing to leave it teetering back and forth. There is actually a point above the transmission, and I'll show you when it's out where that is, but there's a small circle that you can slip a hook into. I'm thinking about pulling off the intake just so it's easier to see around the back side of the motor. It's pretty easy to get out. I've taken it off before to take a look at my intake valves and clean them up a bit. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I'm going to be working on this slowly over the course of a few days, so this probably won't be the video that has the engine actually coming out. This is more just the preliminary stuff before I time-lapse pulling it out. But yeah, other little things to watch out for when you're pulling it out is make sure none of your lines are in the way. That means wiring, that means coolant, that means hoses, that means AC lines. So make sure none of that's in the way. Pull out. I recommend kind of pulling off everything that kind of makes the motor wider. So that's like the AC compressor, the intake, because the throttle body is the next widest point. And then I'm probably going to pull off the wastegate actuator just so I don't end up catching it on this. I can see that happening fairly easily if it twists and tilts to the side. Other than that, other things that I've taken off just to make it easier for pulling off the hood is the windshield washer fluid connection point, and I don't know what this harness is actually for. I have not looked it up, but yeah, we're just going to undo. Looks like it'll slide out from the front here, but you're going to have to completely take out the rear bolt and then also take off the struts, and then you should be able to pull the hood up and off. I'm going to hold off on doing that just because, again, it is holding my light here so I can see, but you can also see all the stuff that I've got labeled. So we have high pressure fuel pump, boost solenoid, injector 1, 2, 3, 4, coil harness 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Went ahead and labeled the DME because I might, if I'm pulling off the intake, then I want to make sure I know where all these plugs go and all of this stuff. So most of this harness will stay with the car, like I was saying. So most of it will disconnect here, and that's the majority of it, and then you can just flop it over the engine. The other bits of the harness are all run around the engine, so there's not too much to remove there. But yeah, the reason I'm trying to leave the transmission cooler in here, other than not wanting to drain it, is I don't have the service kit to go ahead and drew a transmission flush at the same time, and I don't want to add another variable into things that could possibly go wrong putting the new engine back in and getting it started. So yeah, we're gonna pull off most likely the AC compressor. It's not terribly complicated to get at in here. It's looks like, I believe, 2 bolts. One of them is severely covered in dirt, an oil grime, and then the other one is right up here, but they both look to be an external Torx bit. And the Freon in this car has already been removed, so I don't have to worry about disconnecting that and venting it all out by accident. But yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff to remove, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that and catch back up with you when I'm done getting it all ready. So we've reached the stopping point for today. So you can see I pulled off the charge pipes, the wastegate actuator, the whole intake manifold. I went ahead and I just took the DME off completely so I could store it somewhere so I don't have to worry about it getting bashed around when the engine's being pulled. I went ahead and I pulled the intake manifold, not necessarily to gain any extra space, but because it would give me a better view up here at the top for the transmission bell housing and seeing all the actual bolts that are in here. So I can actually see about 3 of the top side. It gives me better access to my fuel rail here. This is not stock, so you won't have this on your car. This is an ethanol content sensor or analyzer. Well, at the moment, it's just a sensor out here. The analyzer is actually in the car, and I made that out of an Arduino. But this is just taking the output so that when I'm in the car running an ethanol mix, I can see what it is. But this is gonna have to come out so that I can have the fuel rail disconnected. I think I have most of the harness undone, aside from anything that's underneath the car. Went ahead and I disconnected and I checked everything around the sides as best as I could, feeling around and reaching up under them. Still have to do the fan and the radiator hoses. I may end up leaving the radiator in because I think I have more than enough space to come forward and then up. I don't think I'm gonna need to come like a full foot forward. I just don't want to run into the fan and break it in half. So on the other side, I'm pretty clear. Everything that's still attached by the harness is going to be coming out with the car. So there's not too many more things that I had to label. And I'm going to be leaving all of this harness on the car because I want it to be roughly in place when I go to assemble the other engine. That way, when I transfer it over, I'm not trying to remember what everything looked like. But yeah, so I'm gonna call it for here for today's video. I'm gonna keep chugging away at this, and the next video you see next week should be the engine actually coming out, and then we'll kind of dive deeper into what happened to it, or at least as best as we can. I don't want to go too crazy taking it apart because again, I do want to leave most of this harness together. So we'll kind of do like a visual, like external kind of look at it. So we'll look at the exhaust ports name mostly is what I'm kind of interested in seeing, because right now I can actually see the intake side. So if I take you guys off of the mount and we come down over here to the rat's nest of wires and I pull some of them out of the way, we can actually see down into the ports here. Let me see if I can get a better view. So looking in here, I did clean these like chemically a long time ago when I first got the car. So it's been about 50,000 miles and there isn't a ton of buildup in here on here compared to when I first picked it up, but 50,000 miles, this is probably still going to be a little bit concerning to some people. Just namely the deposits on the valves themselves, because there is some fairly large chunks of deposits down in there. I'm not sure how well the camera's going to focus on it just because I haven't zoomed in all the way already. Yeah, that's not much better. But you can see it's pretty consistent across them all. So at least on this side, there's nothing that I can easily tell is wrong with the car. But yeah, so I'm gonna call the video here. Let me just get cleaned up a little bit and I'll flip the camera back around. All right, guys, so that is where I'm going to call this video for today. I'd want to say thank you if you've made it this far into it. And if you guys enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. If you didn't like the video, go ahead and leave a dislike even. If you think there's anything I can improve or you have any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and leave those in the comment section below or wherever it pops up for you on whatever device you're using. But anyway, if you want to keep up with this build, you can go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram, or you can even subscribe to this channel and follow it as it progresses. We do have to get all this stuff done. Like, I know this isn't the most exciting video, just watching me pull apart all this stuff, but it has to get done in order for the engine to come out and for us to go ahead and rebuild and put the new engine in. And for those of you that are new, the whole point of this build is to put forged internals, dyno it with a stock turbo and stock fueling, etc., and then go ahead and put a bigger turbo, add fueling to it, and get a custom tune and see what we can put out. The goal is 400 to 450 horsepower, which is not necessarily the quote-unquote easiest thing to accomplish, although it can be done. There's definitely a lot of precautions and things to like research and take care of when you're doing that, but we can go into that as things come up. Anyhow, I'm gonna call it for the night. I'm very tired and very hungry and need to get cleaned up. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks, bye.